Now, moving into your current role as the head coach and kind of looking at your recruiting style, what does that look like? What is your coaching style? So we'll start with that. How would you describe what your coaching style is?
I think my coaching style is the same way that I did it on the field for the most part. It's explanation, demonstration, highlighting of successful reps and correction of the lowlights. But I would consider myself a pretty players-oriented coach. We have a really good relationship between the players we have here and myself that we can joke around a little bit and then snap right back into, by the way, we were talking about this. I think it's important to develop a good relationship with your players because I think if your players really can tell on a daily basis that you care about them, they're going to want to work harder for you. I think there's certain guys who really work with that, stereotypical high school football coach who foams at the mouth and yells at you every time you make a mistake, but a lot of players don't. I found that most players succeed at the highest level when they're supported on the front end of, I know you can go do this and you can make this play. I'm just asking you to do it in a slightly different way, maybe in a more fundamental way, a more consistent way, but modeling how I want it to look on the field. So I want my guys coming into the office all the time. I want my guys coming in and just stopping in between classes or eating their lunch out in the front room. And I want the office, the locker room, everything we do in a lacrosse only center to be about the players. It's supposed to be for them, for their needs and requirements. So from the coaching side, I do the same. I take the same approach. I like to teach a lot from film in the office so guys can come in with questions and with things that they were watching or ideas. I want it to be kind of free flowing. So I ask our guys consistently throughout the season, if anybody's got an idea for a man up play, come on in and show it to me and let's talk it through. And I think that is something that I really like doing a lot because it shows where their lacrosse IQ kind of is. And sometimes they draw something up, this will work. And some of that session is me proving why it wouldn't. But coming out of that conversation is they have a higher level of understanding. So being able to constantly checking in with the guys of kind of where they're at, what they're understanding, what are their questions, where's their confusion lie. That's something that helps us out a lot more when we get out on the field. So we can have quicker, more decisive conversations on the field because a lot of the let's figure this out together has already happened in the office.
Excellent. How do you and your staff interact with prospective student athletes? Do you have your staff help you with recruiting? Is that something that is mainly on your shoulders, or do you kind of spread the wealth with that?
We utilize our assistant coaches in helping that out. I definitely still handle the majority of that. We have two assistant coaches here on staff, Matt Wall and Brent Cassium. Brent has a 9 to 5 day job normally, so he takes mostly the engineering students that are interested. Brent's a engineer at the nuclear power plant down the road. So when we have an engineering student who's kind of progressed through phase 1, phase 2 of the recruiting process and has some specific questions about the engineering program, and we get a lot of interest for that, and that's when Brent will step in and help us out a little bit. But Matt Wall, he's in the office with me consistently. So Matt's here to help us with tours of prospective student athletes, here to meet with students if I have to be called away for a meeting or anything like that. But typically when we do the conversations in the office, it's Matt and I talking to the recruits and their families together. And then Matt helps me out a lot with finding new recruits for us, as well as following up post-visit and things of that nature.
And you mentioned following up and going to these events. How are you seeing these prospective student athletes? Is it film? Are you going to actual recruiting events like clinics or camps? Are you hosting camps or clinics? Or are you going to high school and club games?
A little bit of everything. It depends on kind of where we are in the year. Summer, we're on the road a lot. We're trying to get out to as many showcases and tournaments as we can with at least one member of our staff for identification purposes, looking for new guys to be added to our list that we should be reaching out to. High school games, we typically get to kind of towards the end of the year, guys that we're talking to throughout the year. And we love to get down to some of their games and follow up on those guys and see them play with their high school teams. I think there's a difference that you can find between watching a guy play with his club team and watching a guy play with his high school team. Certain times there's completely different roles. Sometimes you got an ex-attackman on your high school team who's playing D-mid on a club team because they're playing just up at a really high level. So being able to kind of see the variety within their game, the diversity of things they can do is really good. throughout the fall and the winter, when we're kind of in our in-between areas, that's when we typically do a lot of showcase events or fall tournaments as much as possible. But any chance I get to see a guy play in person, I'm jumping at the opportunity to. I think there's a lot of things you can learn about guys from being there in person. You get to see the moments between the game, between the film, see how they carry themselves. Defensemen that are the ones who come over and pick up their goalie after the defender is the one who made the mistake. Hey man, I got you. You know, we're gonna make the next play. That's the kind of the kids that we're looking for. The guys who don't point fingers, the guys who want to work hard, the guys who recognize when they're making mistakes and own up to it, and the guys who tell their teammates, "Hey, that one's on me, but I ain't gonna do it again." Like those are the kind of guys that we're looking for. A lot of stuff still happens on the film. Obviously, you can learn a lot from the film, but I think you get a little bit of a more well-rounded picture when you can get eyes on people in person.
With that being said, you just finished this past spring season. You're graduating 9 seniors. So with that, what position groups are you looking to kind of reinforce or rebuild with upcoming student athletes, whether for next year's class, or what are you looking to kind of build off of for the future of Kings lacrosse?
To be honest, we're looking at all positions. One of the big things that I want to do here is build our overall roster. We need to get up into higher numbers than we've had in recent years. The teams in our conference are doing that. The teams that we play out of conference in order to prepare for our conference are doing that. I think we need to be in and around the 40s over the course of the next couple of years. So we're looking at all sorts of positions, but in the immediate future, we just graduated 7 offensive players. So we're looking for both midfielders and attackmen to step up into those roles over the next couple of years here. We have a rising senior goalie. We're bringing in an incoming freshman and we're returning junior for next year. But we're looking for a guy to come in and make that position his own and have a few guys backing him up, or a really healthy competition between a few guys. On the offensive end, we're looking for guys who can kind of fill out a variety of different roles. We've been very plug and play over the last couple of years, asking guys to do a lot of things that they're uncomfortable with, which has been great to challenge guys and get them out of their comfort zone a little bit. But if we can start bringing in some guys who this is our guy for behind the cage, and this is our big cannon of a shooter up top, and then we got a crease guy inside, looking for some of those more specific types of players that will really allow us to get a little bit more creative on the offensive end. And then on the defensive end, we just graduated a starting defenseman and a D-mid / LSM for us who need to be replaced. And we have some younger guys on the defensive end who are going to be stepping up this next year here, but really trying to round out the defensive unit as well. I really like it when you can have kind of your 2 units on opposite sides of the field and then bring them together for a little healthy competition. That's what our guys really liked this year. Was we kept a running tally of every day of practice. We had an opening drill and it was either offense versus defense or red team versus black team, and we kept those numbers all year. So that really kind of got the juices flowing right in the beginning part of practice.
Definitely making practice more engaging with that healthy competition for sure.
Absolutely.
That liveliness within the team.
Absolutely. Everybody wants to win, especially when you can beat your buddies.
Yeah. With that being said, what type of athletic expectations are you trying to instill within the program?
I'm really just looking for guys who love hard work, to be honest. You know, as we talked about from my early days of playing lacrosse, I want guys who want the stick in their hand all the time. I love guys who love being in the gym. That really wasn't my style of player, but I love when guys love being in the gym or love getting into extra conditioning and things like that. But we've been talking this year about like, annoy your roommates. Always be doing something lacrosse related. If someone doesn't tell you, like, do you ever put that stick down? Then it's not in your hand enough. My mother had to put a no split dodge rule in our house when we were kids because we would just split dodge her in the hallway and she was starting to get pissed about it. But if you're not thinking about the game until you're at practice, you're doing yourself a disservice. So the guys who want to shoot, the guys who text me all the time, "Hey coach, is the field open? I'd love to get up before practice and shoot. Can I get access to the bucket of balls in the locker room?" Those are the kind of guys that we're looking for, the guys who want to improve on their craft. And I think the guys who come in with that mindset, it's very easy to come in with that mindset in the beginning of your freshman year of, I got to have my stick, I got to be doing this, but maintaining that for 4 years, maintaining of you can do other things, you can have your other friend groups, you can still have a full-blown social life here at college. In fact, I want you to, but I want you to also have that time carved out for when you have to be doing a little bit of extra work on the lacrosse stuff.
And now looking at the academic side of things, are there any academic expectations within your program?
Yeah, we expect our guys to excel. We have a study hall program here for our incoming freshmen who have to meet a minimum GPA requirement to one remain eligible by NCAA standards, but we raise that standard a little higher for guys to graduate out of the study hall program. We want our guys to be nowhere near that academic and eligibility line. So doing study hall in the office, doing team study halls in our gym classroom area over in our school gym, and consistent academic monitoring. One of the things that we do is we have the guys fill out a form each week for them to come into the office and drop off with me. That way I see everybody at least once a week. I have an idea of how their grades are looking, kind of leading into getting those grades sent to me for midterms. But we want our guys to succeed. Typically not really much of an issue for the guys that we bring in. In the last couple of years, we've been bringing in a lot of really high academic demanding majors, a lot of physician's assistant students, a lot of engineering students. We've recently began our occupational therapy and nursing programs that are a lot of our recruits are currently interested in, and they have their own strict requirements for advancing through the program. Typically not really a team-wide issue for us, more of an individual, but with that study hall and the monitoring and the kind of constantly checking in that we do with the kids, it's a little easier for us to identify those issues before they really become big issues for us.
So kind of having those things set in stone, that way they don't become a problem. If there are problems, you know ahead of time, and you can kind of mitigate that moving forward.
Yeah, that's the goal is when we see, a behavior of concern that we can course correct that pretty quickly.
Now, when you have prospective athletes coming in and you're pitching to them, what are some of the values that you are looking to instill in them and this program that when they leave Kings, this is what they leave?
For us, it's about hard work, consistency, and the biggest one is coachability. I think coachability can be pretty broad. It can apply to a lot of different things that are going to happen after life at Kings. It always goes on to you're planning on getting a job when you leave here, right? You're coming to a really good school. You're going to get the job that you're looking for. But when you get there, you're going to have a boss and you're going to have deadlines and you're going to have mandates and you're going to have to answer to things. So we like to prepare guys for that by being on time for things like meetings and practice. As easy and silly as it sounds, it's an important skill that some people need to learn when they graduate to the college level. One of the things we talk about a lot is you don't have somebody breathing over your shoulder all the time. Do you have homework? How was school? Sit down, get your homework done, make sure you do this. So with that, it really allows our guys to learn that maturity side of things, learn that side of you have something that's due, you have a few choices in what you can do in the meantime, but you have to make sure this thing gets done. And you have to make sure you're getting your stick work in, you have to make sure you're showing up to meetings on time, you got to make sure you're going to class. All things, again, that are going to prepare them for being young men entering the workforce and entering the professional world. King's motto here is that, King's doesn't just teach students how to make a living, but how to live. And I take that pretty seriously. And I think it's something that we try to instill in the guys that if you do these things at a high level with a consistent kind of work ethic at it, you're going to succeed in whatever you put your mind to. And it's not about the goal of I want to be good at this. It's I want to be, good at the strategy of how I'm going to attack my challenges, my scheduling, and my time management skills to make sure that when I do move on from Kings, I'm prepared for the professional world.
And then as we get ready to wrap up this episode, what separates your program from others? What can you give to your student athletes that kind of sells itself?
I think the environment at Kings does a lot of that. You go to a lot of these quote unquote smaller, medium sized schools, and everybody says we're like a family here. You have all the support systems here. And at Kings, it's really true. There's so many check-ins and so many little touch points around campus where the residence life office knows our guys, campus activities, student government, campus ministry. All these people have a small part to play in the progression of our athletes, our student athletes through their 4 years here. On the lacrosse side of things, I think we really have a unique perspective and understanding of what it means to be a team. A lot of times in the past couple of years with a smaller roster, we've had guys sharing roles and having to maybe, spin a couple different plates all at once just to help us be as competitive as we can be in games. And with that, it allows for, I feel, a more enriching experience of the college lacrosse life. Our team is extremely close, always has been. Back in my playing days was extremely close. Guys tend to get assigned a roommate freshman year, and by the time they're seniors, they're still living together, and they're off campus in their house now, and they've found their crew amongst their grade, and those relationships continue to exist long beyond Kings. When I found out I was going to be the head coach, and that was 7 years after I graduated, I can't even tell you the amount of text messages I got from alumni who saw the post and started coming back for events and being around the program. So I think the relationships that you can develop here are huge, and they last for a long time. A lot of our guys are semi-geographically in the same kind of area. We got a lot of guys from, Philly, Lehigh Valley, Northern Jersey, the Wilkes-Barre area, and being able to see those guys kind of coming back for events at Kings, whether they're lacrosse related or not, as well as some of the alumni things we try to do in addition to that. Our alumni put together a tournament team every year to go play in a men's league tournament in the summer, and it's become something in our program of the graduating seniors start asking me, hey, you're going to play in that tournament this year. This is the first summer I can play in it. It's going to be so awesome. Me and you get to play together. Oh, this is going to be cool. Is Brock going to be there? Is Mike McDougall going to be there? And all these guys asking questions honestly about the alumni they're tired of hearing me reference in practice. This is how Brock used to do it. This is how Joe Massa used to do it. But getting a chance to meet those guys and get them involved in the program is something that I think we have a unique understanding of here. I think the experience just speaks for itself once you get on campus and talk to our guys and talk to our coaching staff and see the way our guys interact with each other. It's really a brotherhood here.
Excellent. AJ, any other final thoughts you'd like to add before we wrap up this episode?
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. Like I said before, I really appreciate you starting this podcast and highlighting some of these Lehigh Valley guys. The Valley is prime for explosion here in the lacrosse side of things. So we're really thankful for our guys that we got out of the Lehigh Valley. We're graduating Jake Cherrick. He's a Freedom alum. He's going to be moving on. We got Ryan Beltram, who's a Parkland guy, Eric Nadalevich, who's a Parkland guy. We're bringing in Arjun Williams next year from Parkland, Bryce Bachman from Allentown Central Catholic, and then a number of recruits we're talking to from some other schools like Nazareth, Saucon Valley, Central, Emmaus. Really excited that the Lehigh Valley is growing. I think this is going to go a long way in getting those guys some popularity and some shine. So thank you for starting this and for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course, AJ Bungert, the head coach of Kings College. It's been a pleasure to learn about you and hear your story about how you got started all the way working up the coaching ranks, becoming the 4th head coach in Kings College history. AJ, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, LJ. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast presented by Smith Sports Media. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel searching Lehigh Valley Prospects Podcast. You can stream the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts searching Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast. Follow us on social media on Instagram at LV Prospects MLAX Podcast, on X at LV Prospects MLAX, and on Facebook at Lehigh Valley Prospects Men's Lacrosse Podcast. Until next time, I'm your host, LJ Smith, signing off.